years ago, let me narrate an incident. So I was in Singapore doing a CXO level workshop for a very, very high class client of ours. And what happened is we had a one trainer who was actually, if you say, indispensable. And but he was supposed to fly back to Australia the next day because next day was his marriage anniversary. But for whatever reasons, the workshop had to be extended. But for this guy, it was non-negotiable because next day was his marriage anniversary, he had to go. So I went to my boss and I said that what do we do because we don't have anybody else. Then she told me one thing. Remember, there are always options. The point is we really don't look at what we are trying to do. So what we did is we went back to the drawing board. We said that I know tomorrow is his marriage anniversary. So we flew the wife from Australia to Singapore. So the wife was happy, the husband was happy, and we were also able to actually deliver a very high powered train. So this was a big learning for me that in life there are always options. Like when we talk about infinite streams, if there is one stream which actually goes away, there is another stream in life which you can latch onto. Now let's look at the human body. Now human body is an amazing creation in a sense that have you ever wondered somebody who cannot see or who cannot speak, who cannot hear, the other senses are so much developed. Let's say we have 2 kidneys, but a lot of people are living well with a single kidney. In fact, without 2 kidneys, with proper dialysis, you can still live. A human body can survive without water for 3 days. It can survive without food for 7 days. So this is a classic example of the infinite opportunities, the limitlessness of the human body. And when we talk about us as a life where we have limited span in life, it's important that we look at multiple streams because life is all about the art of possibility, the art of options, and there's nothing better than what a human body can demonstrate it for us. Okay. Now this is something again, I'm mentoring a group of girls from Freedom Employment Academy. Actually this works a lot for the rural India. Now if you look at these girls, most of them are from states which doesn't allow education for the girls. But what we did is, let's allow them to dream. So a lot of them, we actually are doing a session for them on a monthly basis. And a lot of them have come back to us saying that somebody wants to become a policewoman, somebody wants to get into an IPS, somebody wants to become a model. The fact that they wanted to dream, but for whatever reason, for societal reasons, we were not able to do that. But finally, we also had an additional task. We went back to their parents. We looked at it that why don't you allow your girls to do that? I think this has been a very fantastic experiment which has worked very well. Today, there are 5 girls who have graduated from this as policewomen. There are 5 girls who have actually been into IPS. So this has been, I think, something, an opportunity which we have not been exploring quite a bit in our lives. Now, I started my journey in Tata Motors as a graduate trainee. Now, if you look at it, we were in the business of making trucks. But what happened one time, Tata Motors Jamshedpur saw the first temporary workers strike. And if you look at February, March, these are months where we have to produce a lot, but there were no workers. So we really did not have any option. So we went back to the general manager. We said, what do we do? So he came back to us saying that you are graduate trainees. Why don't you go and assemble the trucks? So that was, though there was a gherao in front of the factory, we went to the factory at night the previous day. And maybe some of the trucks are still not running because they are more than 20 years old now. But some of the trucks were actually assembled by some of the graduate engineer trainees. And that's a moment that we explored that this is also a way, and that's how we looked at the dignity of labor, because if you look at the West, there is no such thing as this is a better work or this is a worse work. Every work has a dignity, and that actually taught us, and this is where the moment we start thinking like this, life actually opens up a lot of opportunities. For example, startups. A single person has to wear multiple hats, and that's where nothing. If you say that I will not do this because Xerox is something, I should not be doing it. But I think this is, if we get along this over this mentality, I think life opens a lot of opportunities. And if you look at most of the successful people in the world today, they have all started from very humble background, from very different sources. And the fact that they have hung on to it, they never gave up. They may have fallen down 7 times, but they have got up 8 times to really look at what life is all about. This is a beautiful life. We have a limited life. And I think if we really want to do, we can actually do a lot in this life. Now, if you look at, I spent some time with a cement company called Lafarge India. And if you look at traditionally, cement is always transported using either trucks or railways. Now, if you look at the northeast part of India, now it's a very peculiar situation because you have only a single railway line, and because of the food grains always get a priority. So we had no way to ship our cement, but it was needed because construction was on a boom. So then we came back to the drawing board, we started looking at other threads, and we said that why don't we use waterways? Because water is like poison for cement. So for the first time in India, somebody actually experimented that let us move our cement through barges. And when we looked at it, the cost was only 1/6 of what we do it by trucks. The fact that we never challenged those assumptions, the fact that we never really looked at it, why this is, that's where I think it opened up a lot of opportunities for us. So similarly in life, the problems happen because we are so used to doing things in a certain way. There will be failures, there will be successes, because I had more failures in my life. But I think that motivates me to do more, and I think this is a very classic example of where we challenge the basic assumptions, and that's how we moved. So if I look at it, my father actually succumbed to dementia. If you look at it, dementia is a disease of the brain, and what typically happens is they start forgetting things. And Alzheimer's disease is again one of the most prevalent types of dementia, which is now why I'm talking about it. Now, what happens in Alzheimer is there are nerve threads between which there is a protein substance which gets deposited. And when you rest at night, these protein substances get removed, and that's why the connections between the nerves are actually established. So in dementia, what happens is these proteins don't get removed, so the connections are lost, you start forgetting. But if you have typically seen a dementia patient, in fact, I was his primary caregiver for 4 years, there are good days, there are bad days. In certain days, he will actually able to remember, he will able to connect. But on certain other days, he was just like nowhere. Why I'm talking about it? Because it's like life. Because in certain good days, the nerve cells actually connected. But on the bad days, the nerve cells never connected. So that's where I think the crux lies in that in life also we will have good days and not so bad days, but it's all about how we can look at the infinite threads and how they are looking at it. Now, let's look at, this is again a COVID example. If you look at, I have spent most time in consulting, and consulting is a very high touch business. You have to be with the client, you have to be in front of the client, and it's all human relationships. But when COVID hit us, we were really worried that how can we do consulting? Because we were away, we were locked in our rooms, and before we knew the lockdown was coming, we actually educated all our clients how to do meetings on Teams, Zoom. And when I look back, though that year has been the most profitable business for us, for the primary reason, we did not pay for real estate, we did not travel, but we were still delivering high quality work. And that also opened up a lot of opportunities in this area, because typically if you look at a consulting business, let's say your client is in US. There's a US team which actually is with the client, and the US team talks to the India team. So a lot of people have this complaint that we don't get to talk to the client. But because of this setup, we were able to open up the opportunity that the India team could actually talk directly to the customer. And that's where I think this has a whole, the fact of at it, and that's where I think we made a lot of mark in this business. Okay. Now, this is a topic which is very close to my heart. So, I grew up in an all-boys school, and when I went for my mechanical engineer, again, there were no girls. But as life happens, I had a liking for a particular girl, but for the next 4 years, she neither said yes, neither said no. And then after 4 years were over, I found that she married somebody else. So maybe this was a lesson for me. Maybe I could have done it differently. Maybe I could have thought it in a way that maybe if she cannot be mine, she cannot be anybody's. But maybe I decided to channelize it differently. I thought that maybe this is a motivation for me to do more. Maybe had things moved better, maybe I would not have been standing here. In fact, Mithun Chakravarti, the person who gave us disco dancer, if I say the Michael Jackson of India, in his recent interview, recently got the Padma Bhushan, he was telling that he had actually proposed a girl and then she had said no. And she said in later years that worked well for us because had she said yes, then maybe Mithun Chakravarti would not have been born. Again, we should look at it more as a positive because in life you will face a lot of rejections and that's absolutely fine. You don't have to take it personally. You will be used. People will not treat you well, even in your corporate life, but that's fine. The best revenge, which I say, is be more successful rather than trying to get into certain other type of things of acid attack, very unfortunate in our country. But I think if we channelize it well, I think that can be definitely be a much, much better world for us. Now, I went to Doha for about 6 months, and I remember when we used to say that this is not possible. The moment they have something called a Ministry of Possibilities. So the moment you tell them that this is not possible, you have to go and make a case to them that why it is not possible. The fact that Middle East has done so well, because they have always explored options, they have looked at the art of possibilities, they have always said that why it is not possible, why do we, and that's where I think the mindset is, if you look at any latest thing, new technology or whatever breakthroughs, I think a lot of these happens in Middle East because they have that knack of the art of possibilities. In fact, they have created something called a Ministry of Possibilities, which I have not seen in any part of the world. To sum it up, I think this is a very sad state of the current affairs. If you look at it, today in India, 17% of the world's population resides. Out of that, 30% are in the 15 to 19 category. So we have one of the youngest population in the world, which is a big advantage for us. But unfortunately, the suicide rates among guys in 15 to 19 in our country is twice that of the global average. For the same number of girls between 15 to 19, it is 6 times the global average. As per the government records, there are 60,000 suicides in this category. Of course, the numbers are definitely not right because they are much lower. The numbers will be much higher because 60,000 is just, if you try to add up the maths, it doesn't add up. The unfortunate part is, if you don't get an IIT, if you don't get an IIM, if you could not marry the girl which you wanted, life doesn't stop here. There are always options. And it's very important that we start exploring. Today, we have so many options. When I was about to graduate, we had only either you become a doctor or an engineer. The fact that today you are dreaming, today the fact that you are trying to do something else, today the fact that you are getting into a startup, because we are a generation which always looked at getting a job, not creating jobs. I think this is where I see a very radical change in mindset, which is good for the country, good for the girl. But what I'm saying is, this is only one life. Life is beautiful. We have limited journey in this life. So what I will say is, make the best out of it. When you are not there, at least people should tell, yes, this person was there. I think if you have been able to impact at least one person in this world, I think you have led a fulfilled life. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. It was a privilege and honor to be here. Thank you.